Excited to talk to you a bit about what it means to be a great place to work within senior housing and why it's important. So this is Jim Collins. He's a best-selling author, and he's also a guru in the area of business management. And he talks about the concept of what it means to be a great company and great leader. And he has a contrarian point of view. His view is greatness is not solely defined by economic growth and power. So a great place to work, we totally agree. We've been looking at this concept of what is a great company for 30 plus years. And we've settled on the notion that a great company is a company that creates a great workplace experience. Why do we say that? 70% of your waking life is spent at work. That means you're spending more time with your colleagues than you're spending with your family and your friends. So it follows that if we can change and improve your experience at work, that's going to have great benefits for your business, but it's also going to have great benefits for society. So I'm going to share with you some data today, and I'm going to share with you some findings around it. Rest assured, what I'm sharing with you is not opinion. This is data-driven findings. So 100 million folks that we've surveyed, 100 million employees that we have surveyed around the globe. We work with 10,000 organizations a year, and we work across 57 offices in countries around the world. So this is really powerful stuff. And what we've learned is that people all want the same thing. They want to have pride in what they do. So not just their contribution and job role, but in terms of how their company shows up in the marketplace. The most important thing they're looking for is they're looking to trust those that they work for. What does that mean? That means they want their leaders to be credible, they want their leaders to believe in them, and they want their leaders to support them to do their best work. And then lastly, they're looking to enjoy the people they work with, that sense of connection, that sense of community and camaraderie with your peers. So we've done a deep dive within the senior living industry. We've surveyed over 160,000 senior housing employees, and there's some really powerful, consistent themes that have emerged around what it means to be a great place to work in senior housing. Before I go into that, though, I want to just take a pause and say we took a big leap forward this year, partnering with a company that I'm sure you're all familiar with now, Activated Insights and Fortune magazine, to stand up the first ever list for aging service providers. These are the best places to work for aging service providers. And this is very, very powerful because these are companies that day in and day out are really delivering on that great workplace experience for their employees. So one moment here, let's talk about the why before we get into what folks are doing to accomplish it. This is Warren Buffett, really successful investor. He makes long-term bets. And what he's saying is, I don't just look at financial statements. I also look at the relationship between leaders and employees at organizations. And I'm looking for something in particular. I'm looking for trust. So if Warren Buffett doesn't do it for you, how about 20 years of data? 20 years of data is what you're looking at now. The dark blue here really shows you the performance of 100 best companies over the last 20 years in the stock market. It also then shows you the light blue, which is the Russell 3000, Russell 1000 index, which is a proxy for overall market performance. And what you see is year in and year out for 20 years, best companies have outperformed the market by a factor of 3. I'll say that again. Year in and year out, best companies have outperformed the market by a factor of 3, even in recessionary periods. But that's not the really exciting thing. Here's what's really exciting. Hedge funds, investment funds, and asset management companies are actually placing bets on great workplaces. One such fund called Parnassus Investments, they manage about $22 billion. They have a fund that's called Endeavor Fund. This fund has been around for about 13 years. It's outperformed all of their other funds. Guess what else it's outperformed? It's outperformed all large cap company growth stocks over any long-term measure for 13 years, right? So the data is really clear that it's not just the right thing to do to create a great workplace, it actually unlocks shareholder value. The other thing that we did last year was we took a hard look at our methodology and we actually raised the bar. On the right-hand side, you see the gray, which is the 100 best companies. And you see that the 100 best companies are doing pretty well. When you look on the other side, you see this blue bar. These are great places to work for all. This is our improved methodology. Great places to work for all actually have 2x the revenue growth of 100 best companies. So let's talk a little bit now about what it actually means to be a great place to work for all in senior housing. There are two themes that emerge. One is this sense of pride, this sense of purpose. People feel really strongly that what they do every day for residents is more than a job in senior housing. The second thing that came through loud and clear is that sense of camaraderie and connection, that employees really feel as though at any given site, I'm standing along shoulder to shoulder with someone who is making a real impact on the lives of a community. So this is really powerful findings. So you may be asking your question, what is the real difference between a great place to work and one that isn't so great? So you're looking at a chart here. On the x-axis are individual leaders. On the y-axis are the employees' experience of those individual leaders. At the top, you see a blue line. That blue line is a great place to work. There's not that much variability in experience of leaders. It's generally positive, that the experience that employees are having of their leaders. Now, when you look down and you actually look at the black line, you see a lot more variability. What is that? That means that at my site, I'm working for a leader and it's my dream job. My buddy at another site is working for a leader and it's a nightmare. That kind of variability can't produce the kind of outsized returns that I spoke about earlier. That kind of variability is a problem for the business and it's a problem for the market as a whole. So let me bring that concept home. This is Simon Sinek. He's a social anthropologist. He works with business leaders on how to motivate employees and what are the key drivers around those motivations. So Simon Sinek was in Las Vegas. He was served by a bartender named Noah. Noah gave him such great service that Simon Sinek had to ask why. What is it that drives you to do what you do? Noah said to him, at the Four Seasons, every manager that I'm faced with, every manager that I encounter is always looking for ways to help me, always looking for ways to build me up, to help me develop, to help me learn. And that just motivates me to want to pay it forward to clients. But then he said to Simon, I also work at Caesar's Palace. And at Caesar's Palace, the managers are nitpicky, they're looking for gotcha moments, and they're looking to identify things that I've messed up. And so you can only imagine that if we had met at Caesar's Palace, you might not have had the great experience that you had here. Same person, two different workplace experiences, and he's fundamentally showing up different. You can imagine that that follows the same kind of dynamic could follow in the senior housing industry as it relates to residents and how you pay it forward. Employees are often saying, if I'm not experiencing great, how do I pay it forward for residents? So let's dive in deep here and really ask the question, what is it that really are the real opportunity areas to create a great place to work within senior housing? What you're looking at here is a chart of the 100 best companies in blue, and then you're looking at the top companies in senior living in red. The single largest challenges are around fairness and respect. This is to the extent to which leaders show fairness and respect to employees fundamentally colors that employee's experience of the entire workplace. And what you're seeing is even the 100 best across all industries are having challenges in these areas, but in senior living, the challenges are even more stark. Are managers involving me in decisions? Are folks playing favorites? Why are certain people getting promoted to general manager and other folks are not? These are the kinds of things that then really impact the performance of employees. So how do we turn the corner? How do we actually change and shift this dynamic within senior housing? The key is leadership experience. And when we talk about leadership experience, we're talking about that individual manager and their interaction with employees. We always say that every manager has an opportunity to do one of three things: build trust, break trust, or rebuild trust. So when we look at that, what we're looking at is really this concept of consistency. How is that manager showing up every day and in every way to employees? At the crux of that is fairness. So at Great Place to Work, we measure on a consistency scale. We're not talking satisfaction. We're not talking agree or disagree. It's the hardest possible measure. How consistent is your experience? And we go from almost always untrue to almost always true. So we've identified 3 behaviors within senior housing that fundamentally is game-changing when leaders get it right in terms of creating that great workplace experience. And some of this is going to be familiar to you given some of the earlier presentations. This question of management involving me in decisions. I don't need to be in the room, but I need to know the why behind what we're doing at this site, behind the decisions you're making in this community. If I know the why, I can move faster and I can support the decisions that are happening. The key to that is leaders actually listening and ensuring that they're using the information about my experience to inform decisions. The second is supporting training and development. We're not talking about certifications and we're not talking about licensing. We're talking about that question around what is it going to take for me to be successful here? How are you investing in me to be successful? For those that are moving up, what is driving their movement? Help me understand it. Help me actually have those same kinds of successes. And then lastly, avoiding perceptions of politicking and backstabbing. This is all around leaders showing a sense of care, and so ensuring that the relationship they have with employees is not just transactional, that there's a true relationship there. So I end on this note. I've got a photograph here of Olympians. This is Mike Phelps, this is Simone Biles. This is an Olympian opportunity to create a great place to work experience within senior housing. Why is it an Olympian opportunity? 3x opportunity to unlock value for shareholders, 2x opportunity to grow revenue faster, and a clear opportunity to deliver for residents. It's also an Olympian opportunity because there's no one and done, there's no silver bullet. The key is about that leadership experience at every level of the organization. It's about practicing, it's about flexing muscles, and it's about sustaining great, not only for residents, not only for employees, but for the business as a whole. Thank you.